Swayam Prabha. Digital India. Educated India.
Okay, good morning to all of you. Welcome to the last lecture. We've had 40 lectures covering advanced structural analysis. We've had enough of structural analysis. So this is a general talk, general lecture, so you can sit back and relax. It's a talk on life beyond structures and analysis. It's about life. I think in your first semester I gave you a similar talk when you joined. This is a bit of recall of that talk, but you've traveled quite a distance. When you joined here in first year in IIT, I recall you were perhaps a little more alive, a little more alert. There was a sparkle in your eye. But if you look inwards, a bit of that has dimmed. Is it not true? No, wonderful. So you are still young because you are in 5th semester. Your seniors will report something differently. Incidentally, this happens to the best of us. The sparkle in the eye, the fire in the belly, they all diminish. And look at old people, the fire is hardly there. So we ask this question seriously. Why are we here? Apparently to learn, but we are not all learning the way learning should happen, right? I've asked this question of your seniors. I asked a question, if there were no grades, if there was no degree, well, let there be a degree. If there were no grades, would you still study? Would you still attend class? Seriously. Raise your hands if you say no, and don't worry about the cameras. Raise it boldly, not half-mast. Okay. So you are still claiming to be interested in studying, which is wonderful, but your seniors were very honest and the majority said no way. Then why are you here, I ask? And even more important, after you get your degree, will you stop learning? You understand? These are questions you need to answer. And when a teacher finds in front of himself or herself a group of students who are, shall we say, not as interested as they should be, some are disinterested, some are absolutely not interested, then we are confronted with this question, why are we here? And this is a serious question which is troubling many of our teachers. Even the fire that is there in our belly gets dimmed when we don't see excitement in the classroom. And there is a deeper question. Why do we live? And this question will pop up every now and then when it troubles you. Why do we live? So is there a deeper purpose in our lives? Is there a life purpose? And that is basically the theme of what we are going to discuss. I believe there is a life purpose. And I have been troubled by this question for many decades. And it's a great search. Because once the life purpose starts revealing in front of you, you will find it very meaningful to live, very meaningful to do what you are doing. When I am confronted with students who are not so much interested in engineering to begin with, many of you will look for jobs that give you more money, and the majority, the toppers even go for finance jobs, it's well known. Am I right? No? Yes, okay. So, I am not saying you are wrong. There are few students who are still interested in engineering, and they were indeed interested when they joined, and it's quite okay. It's quite okay to be what you are. But taking up a finance job, okay, becoming a banker, which is what many end up doing, joining large corporations, may not be your life purpose. That's all I am asking you. So it takes courage to figure out what your life purpose is. And if I look at my own life, I got into teaching by accident, but I realized I was born to teach. And teaching should happen effortlessly. Of course, you need to prepare a lot, but the flow must happen effortlessly. And then when I found that the group of students in IIT are really not becoming structural engineers, then it did turn out to be a little disheartening. And then we find that there is so much need for infrastructure in our own country and elsewhere in the world. You need good engineers, you need good structural engineers. Unfortunately, the ones who do practice come from many ordinary engineering colleges where the learning is quite mediocre, to put it mildly. And so there is a need to reach out beyond these classes to the larger public, and that's what motivated me to put things in writing. That's how these books emerge on structural analysis and advanced structural analysis, and they're quite fat. You have to be interested to read them, and I really wanted teachers to read them. I wanted a lot of unlearning to take place and fresh learning to happen. And I conducted workshops in other places in the country, and I'm still doing it, and I hope it's making a difference. See, finally at the end of the day or the end of your life, the question that matters to all of us is, did I make a difference? Am I making a difference to your lives? That's the only question that really, do I feel fulfilled? And it's great if the answer is yes, at least to a few people. One way of knowing that you are with your life purpose is when you are able to get into what is known as a flow state. You can do it effortlessly. Apparently extremely difficult things you can do effortlessly. In writing this book in structural analysis, I remember the last few chapters were written in Germany at Karlsruhe, and I was alone, and my main job was to sit and write, and there were days where I struggled, and this is technical stuff, this is not poetry, and I couldn't write, I couldn't draw, and those are the days when I took walks, and when I come back and when there is that mood and I start writing, sometimes you can't stop writing, you write the whole night. My wife was not around to stop me, and it was beautiful. And I am sure you too have experienced moments like that in your life, but supposing much of your life is made up of such moments, then you have got your life purpose moving. these are some other books that came by. I am a co-author of them. The book on reinforced concrete design, I believe, is making an impact. In it's about 13 years old. It's the third edition, and I hope it is helping and making a difference in the learning, the teaching, and the practice of structural engineering. But even these didn't really make me happy fully. There's still a vacuum. I still feel in education lots of things are missing. And so these are well described by someone called George Calvin, who was an American humorist. And what I am reading is a quotation from him in the 80s. Okay, we are now in 2011. This is what he said: "The paradox of our time in history," he is talking about United States, "the paradox of our time in history is that we have taller buildings but shorter tempers, wider freeways but narrower viewpoints. We spend more but we have less. We buy more but we enjoy less. We have bigger houses and smaller families, more conveniences but less time to enjoy them. We have more degrees but less sense. We have more knowledge but less judgment. We have more experts yet more problems. We have more medicine but less wellness." Very relevant. "We have multiplied our possessions but reduced our values. We talk too much, drive too fast, stay up too late, get up too tired, watch TV too much." You can replace TV with your online activity. "Love and pray too seldom and hate too often. We've learned to make a living but not a life. We've added years to life but not life to years. We've been all the way to the moon and back but have trouble crossing the street to meet a neighbor." Well, in your case it's trouble crossing the corridor to meet your neighbor in your hostel. "We've conquered outer space but not inner space. We've done larger things but not better. We've learned to rush but not to wait." These are the times of fast foods and slow digestion, big men and small character, steep profits and shallow relationships, 2 incomes but more divorce, fancier houses but broken homes, more entertainment but less happiness. Very true, don't you think so? This is the West which is leading the show in development, supposedly, in the 1980s. And that's the way we are heading. There's something wrong, something missing. And in 2004, I was prompted to write this book, Stop Sleepwalking Through Life. And that also didn't seem to make much effect to where things are happening, but things are slowly changing. And this is the next thing that we are trying to introduce in IIT. We tried all kinds of things. We brought in Reflections, which was a forum, not too well attended. This is a new course which has been approved by the Senate of IIT Madras, the first of its kind. It's called Self-Awareness, and its objectives are to enable students to understand and explore self-awareness based on traditional Indian wisdom and modern approaches, and thereby learn to find inspiration, take responsibility for one's inner life, live with integrity, and contribute creatively towards the well-being of all. let us see how it unfolds. By the way, entrance is quite strict to this course. In the old Gurukula system, you could not just walk in. You have to be an adhikari, you have to be deserving. And so there is a short listing, and a lot of students have started registering. You can only credit this course, you can't audit. It is a full 3 credit course, but really it is a change that may happen to you that really matters. And if you ask me, this should be core, and it was core in the earlier times. Advanced structural analysis and civil engineering were all electives. So let us begin with some Western psychology. We are all who we are, and we behave in the ways we behave because we respond to certain inner needs. And Abraham Maslow gave his beautiful hierarchy of needs and his theory of self-actualization, where he said that we all of us begin with physiological needs, body needs, which we share with animals. Human beings need more. We need safety needs. You need to save money for the future. In fact, the future does not exist for nature. It is only human beings who worry about the future. You need safety needs. You need belonging. You have belongingness and love needs. You can't be alone. You need to relate to people. You need to have affection for people and receive affection. And finally, you need name and fame, which is probably why you joined IIT in the first place. These are esteem needs. All of us have them. And Maslow said these common needs are deficiency needs. They are needs that are like holes inside us crying for hunger. We need to satisfy them. But the trouble is we tend to get stuck here, and that is why he drew a line there, and he says not many people have crossed this threshold, and what lies beyond is needs of knowledge and aesthetics. For example, if you come to this course or self-awareness because you really want to learn, not for marks, not for money, not for grades, and that is a kind of curiosity we had when we were little children, isn't it? We really wanted to know, why is the sky blue? And we asked these questions till the parents got tired of us and they said, shut up. And ever since we shut up, we've stopped asking questions. But there is a genuine curiosity to understand. And aesthetics is all about appreciating and expressing beauty in your life. Things you do with a touch of class. You do art for the sake of art. Life itself becomes an art of expression. And then you discover your life purpose and you self-actualize. So this is the word he used. Self-actualization is really hitting your potential, the purpose for which you were born, discovering it, getting into a flow state and enjoying life fully. And there are needs higher than this, which he knew were spiritual needs, which he called meta needs. So there is the conventional way of thinking and living, which is what we see in the world around us, which influences us so much. And there is a pre-conventional, children for example, we say are pre-conventional and we want to make them like us, and that is why in India you will find that you do not have much choice. You are programmed from the day you are born, the kind of schooling you do, and once you reach class 9 or 10, everything is laid for you. You have to go to those concentration camps and you must end up either as an engineer or a doctor, and if you do not, you are good for nothing. So this is conventional wisdom, or shall I say lack of wisdom, and you need to break that, which is not easy. And so you will find that self-actualization is for people who are willing to follow their heart, do the right thing, and it points to a transcendental maturity which helps people to learn, to live, to love, to relate, to play in far more fulfilling ways than normal, and that is our potential, and my job here is to wake us up to that. And how do you know you hit your life purpose? Because you will find that living itself is self rewarding. You do not need anything. You do not do things to fill a vacuum inside you, to search for happiness. You are happy, and that happiness is expressed in your life, in your work. You radiate joy. Unfortunately, the way of the world is such that we are not trees which grow vertically, we kind of bend horizontally. Those needs, there is no limit to those needs, and that is why you have these scams. Okay, there are so many zeros attached, and all those zeros do not really matter at all, but somehow we are brainwashed into wanting more money, which is why you wanted the finance job in the first place, because of those attractive zeros with a dollar in front of it. But it is not really going to help you, because you do not need that much. You need to wake up from this conventional stupid way of living, and I think that is part of our job as teachers, to remind you and to remind us that grow vertically, discover your potential. So let me first explode the happiness myth that we are kind of brainwashed into believing. It is like there is a gravitational force which holds us completely stupefied, and we can't break it. You need an escape velocity to break that. So all of us have something in terms of material possessions. Every one of us has, okay, but we are not looking at what we have. We are always looking outside that boundary. We are always looking at what we do not have, what the neighbors have, what the TV advertisements tell us, the latest cell phone in your case, or a flashy car, or even the finance job that you are worrying about. I want those things, and you struggle and you get those things, and are you happy? No way. The line shifts and you are still looking across the line, and it does not stop with material possessions. You get married, and instead of looking at your spouse, you are looking outside. Nothing satisfies. Everything, the honeymoons do not last. We live such a shallow life, superficial life, and it is like we are not breaking the chain. And what the hell are we looking for? What do we expect to see in the horizon? It is a big question mark, and that is why most people will not be able to answer the question, what is your life purpose, because it is what everybody says it should be, and those people who tell you what it should be, are they happy? Are they fulfilled? So it is like we are in a rat race where there is a Pied Piper who is blowing the pipe. We have never seen the Pied Piper. We are all rushing to reach somewhere, we do not know where, and we are even afraid to pause because some other rat might get past us. That is life. What a stupid way to live. So widespread. And the joke George Bernard Shaw says is there are two great tragedies in life. One is not to get your heart's desire, and the other is to get it. Because once you have got it, then it is not good enough, you get bored, you want something more. But I want to qualify this. These are superficial desires. These are not the real heart's desire, the deepest desire for which you were born. And a lot of research has shown that once your basic needs are met, further income and possessions add remarkably little to your well-being. You know it, but still the magnetism, the sleepwalking is so strong, it's difficult to break. So I want to give you another quotation from Matthew Ricard, who appeared on the Time magazine as the happiest man in the world. They put some instruments on his brain and measured well, it is interesting. He is always smiling, he is full of joy and love. Please read his book, it is called Happiness by Matthew Ricard. He started life as a French scientist, worked with a Nobel laureate. He dropped all that to become a Tibetan monk and the French translator of the Dalai Lama. incredible person, and he says this, listen, we all strive consciously or unconsciously, competently or clumsily, passionately or calmly, adventurously or routinely to be happier and to suffer less, all of us, right? So why don't we do it consciously rather than unconsciously, competently rather than clumsily? Yet we so often confuse genuine happiness with merely seeking enjoyable sensations. Happiness is a state of inner fulfillment, not the gratification of inexhaustible desires for outer things. Lasting well-being requires us to remain in harmony with our inner nature. This is traditional wisdom. Kabir said it beautifully. Kabir Das, you would have studied his dohas. Kasturi kundali mein base. Kasturi, the scent of the musk deer, is there inside the entrails of the deer. Mrig dhoondhe van mahi, but the deer doesn't know it. It can sense the fragrance and searches the entire forest for this beautiful scent. ऐसी घटी घटी राम है दुनिया देखे नाही. So widespread in all of us is this inner happiness, but we don't recognize it and we search for it elsewhere. It's there also, but then that's just a faint reflection of what's there in you. So I like to show this picture, which is classically a structural analysis picture. You have a structure, in this case the structure is you and me, the human being. Here the loading is the challenges we face in life, and here also we have a response, right? The challenges we face everywhere, especially at the workplace, at home, you will know especially after you get married and you have children and you have mothers-in-laws to deal with, and other places, right? And they are tough challenges. Okay, you are sitting and smiling now because right now you don't think you have a challenge, but even right now there is a challenge of paying attention, for example. Okay, so how do we respond to these challenges? We respond to them with whatever system characteristics that we have. You know, in a structure we talked of mass, damping and elastic stiffness, but here we have knowledge, skills and attitude. All of us do have. So with whatever knowledge we have, whatever skills we have, whatever attitude we have, we try to address whatever challenges come to us, and the response that we have affects us, affects others around us, isn't it? If you feel bad, you will transmit those bad vibrations to people around you. If you feel good, you will radiate that vibration around you. So even the life around you, the environment, including the tables and chairs, are touched by everything that you feel. So that's how important the response is. And by the way, I think responsibility literally means the ability to respond effectively and to any challenge. And the responsibility, the response can be anything in the spectrum, from deep despair to extreme fulfillment, right? So I think as intelligent human beings, we should ask this question: what is it that we are doing that pushes us to the negative side of the spectrum, towards despair? What is it that we need to do, or to be, or to learn, that will help us achieve our heart's desire, that makes us fulfilled? And I think this singular lack of knowledge is what puts us in deep trouble. So we don't have the knowledge. Our course in self-awareness hopefully will give you some knowledge. We don't have the skills even if we have the knowledge. We don't know how to retrieve the situation, how to shift from despair, how to do that alchemy, we don't know. And our attitudes are not all that great. And the attitudes really matter. So given the same challenge, two individuals can respond completely differently. One can be in deep despair and one can be in extreme fulfillment. To give you an example from structures, two neighboring buildings in Ahmedabad, apparently looking identical from the outside. In the Bhuj earthquake, the famous Bhuj earthquake, when was it? 2001. One of them collapsed on the spot. The other one survived beautifully with barely a scratch. What's the difference? That's the difference between despair and fulfillment possible in human beings as well. So, by the way, education is all about developing knowledge, skills and attitude. It's a lifelong process. And you'll always find that whenever confronted with a challenge, there is tension. Okay, there has to be tension. And the tension is, you have this challenge which could be an opportunity for you to develop and take a quantum leap to a higher stage of development, which is a wonderful opportunity, but at the same time we are scared that we might lose whatever little we have. So we want to retreat to the survival stage, to our comfort zone. You understand? And that's a tension, we can feel it inside us, that's a stress, and it's left to us whether to take that leap forward or to regress into our old stage. Classically, let's say you're getting married, what's the kind of blessings elders give you? Saubhagyavati bhava and all that. Basically the parents say, may my children live in comfort, may they be living in relative luxury, may they not be visited by illnesses, may their husbands or wives never desert them, which is something that they pray much more nowadays, etc., etc. But basically live a comfortable life. But in the olden days, our great rishis, who were also parents and who also had children, they didn't wish this, because they knew that the purpose of taking birth is to achieve your potential. And what did they wish? They wished, may you develop the capacity, the knowledge, the skills and the attitude that you need to develop in order to achieve your life purpose. And that's a much greater wish, which means tension is unavoidable, but it's a means to a higher end, it's a vehicle. If there was no crisis, you wouldn't expect the caterpillar to become the butterfly. So it's an opportunity, it's how you look at it. And you'll find that these crises build up not only at the individual level but also collectively. And if there's a dysfunction that you have ignored, for example corruption in India has been ignored, we have not addressed it, we've kind of been blind to it, we've accepted it, and that's why you see today there's such an uproar, because if dysfunction is left unattended to either at the individual level or the societal level, it will explode at some point in time and demand that it be addressed, and then we are not prepared for that situation. So individually and collectively, locally and globally, we have this problem, we have these challenges. Education gives us a livelihood, it does not teach us how to live. In fact, there are many stories that I can tell you, but this was the reason why that book started, and the opening lines of that book is a poem by Rupert Brooke which says, the young Apollo, I'm reminded of the IIT graduate, the young Apollo golden haired stands dreaming on the brink of strife, magnificently unprepared to face the long littleness of life. Okay. You may have got an S grade in advanced structural analysis, but when that crisis comes, you are not ready, you are not prepared, because it is not in the curriculum. Knowledge, education gives us knowledge, it does not give us character, and you know all that too well, especially in our civil engineering, right? Big bucks. And here's a nice quote from Theodore Roosevelt, who said, a man who has never gone to school may steal from a freight car, but if he has a university education he may steal the whole railroad. Now we know why our students want to join finance companies. Okay. Education, in spite of all this, Swami Vivekananda said this, education is the manifestation of the perfection already in man. So there is something in you. I think this is the ancient wisdom which we've completely missed out on in trying to follow Western way of, our entire education setup is completely westernized, and when they are struggling and waking up, we should not repeat the mistakes they've made. So traditionally we were all visualized as unique seeds. Each one of us is a beautiful seed which is waiting to flower, and you will flower only if you can really reach your potential, which means not sleepwalking through life. And there's another interesting thing that is believed traditionally, especially in the East, and that is the wherewithal, the means for discovering the flower in you is already embedded in the seed. It's already there, it has to be awakened. Now here's a very good model which has been actually coined by Sri Aurobindo based on our traditional wisdom, where education is not just cognitive development, which is the way it is today. It's not just cerebral, it has many dimensions, and the reason why we have this paradox of our time in history is because we have neglected many of those dimensions. Typically you have matter and you have life force, which in Sanskrit is called prana, and you have mind. This is how these are the potential in us, and there is spirit inside all of us. At the lowest level you have the potential for physical consciousness, okay, and you have the lower vital, sensual desire and all that. We came with this, in fact it's that desire which really brought you into IIT, which is good. All these are good things to have. And the central vital also you students have to some extent, because you beat the joint entrance exam and you've made it, so it feels great to be unique, the cream of the cream they tell us when you join IIT. And this is what most people aspire for, to be well known. Your role models are Bill Gates and Steve Jobs, that's great, but that's not enough, and we don't have training for other things. And our education is focused entirely on that fifth level of externalizing mind, external knowledge, information, data. Data is the lowest level. If all you know is the unit strength of concrete is so many kilonewton per meter cubed, that's not knowledge. Knowledge can be at different levels. You've studied advanced structural analysis, you know it can be learnt at many depths, but even that is not enough. If you want to find fulfillment in life, you need wisdom, which points to a higher knowledge, to a higher mind, and it points finally to a spiritual dimension, when you realize that that life force that is animating your body is actually something that is sacred, something that is sacred, something that is divine, something that is longing to achieve fulfillment and find expression. So you try to be a perfect vehicle for that expression. And then the most important part of our education, which we neglect, is the heart. Love doesn't come under the purview of science, it's not there in the curriculum, but that's the only thing that really matters in life. So the higher vital is completely missing, and the life force, the life purpose is actually embedded in the heart, deep inside the heart. So these are things we need to discover. This is a wonderful concept of integral education, and this slide I have taken from, you can look up that website, TLOS, they are my friends, we are partners in developing this broad system of education, not just narrowing it to developing cognitive knowledge. Do you think this makes sense? This is what makes you prepared to live. So you have to develop powers of concentration, powers of contemplation, feel compassion for others, and you must have the ability to disengage at any point from whatever you are doing and to find that vast spaciousness which helps you do the right thing, at least know what's the right thing to do. And if you find yourself going negative, you must have the ability to transform. So the transformation is required. So you have these forces which go up and down, you have the evolutionary forces which take you to more subtler levels, and you have the involutionary forces which can help you bring intelligence down to matter. Okay. So you remember this slide I showed you once when you joined first. So this story about the Taj Mahal when it was being built and there were laborers building it. Somebody came down and asked one of the laborers, what are you doing? And he said, can't you see I'm cutting stone? And the next person who was doing the cutting of the stone in a different way, he was looking at every piece of stone and cutting it with great skill and attention and pausing now and then. And to this question, what are you doing? He replied, I am building the Taj Mahal. So apparently outwardly the same activity, but inwardly the sense of motivation, sense of purpose is widely different. So Stephen Covey tried to figure out, and he wrote this in his 8th habit, what is it that sets apart people who live completely fulfilled lives from the ordinary? And he said there are 4 qualities. One is they seem to be driven by a vision, which I would say is linked to your heart life purpose, and they are disciplined. Okay, and it's an inner discipline, nobody is forcing them to do that. They are disciplined in whatever they choose to do, which means if there is an 8 o'clock class, you are here, and you can see how far removed we are from that. And they do everything with passion. Okay, there is life in them, there is fire in their belly, and there is a sparkle in the eye. They look forward to challenges, and they have a conscience which actually makes their vision noble. It's a great vision, it's a great contribution to humanity. It's not for their narrow selves, and they are able to distinguish what is good and bad, what is right and what is wrong. So these are different regions of the intelligence that can be awakened, and they become a creative force in this world. And wouldn't you like to do that? They find their voices, and most important, they inspire others to find their voice, and they become whole, they become fulfilled. But Covey himself recognized that this is an ideal situation, and the reality is we don't live there, and these people live with integrity, and they are always inspired and inspiring. The reality is quite different, and this is based on research and universal research. Despite all our progress and technological development, most people are not thriving in the organizations they work for. No, most students are not thriving in the institutions they study in. Is it a fact? Absolute fact. Okay. So regardless of what you may pretend to be, this is reality. They are neither fulfilled nor excited, they are frustrated. That's a strong word. They have no clear vision, they are bogged down and distracted, and they don't feel they can improve much. This is bad, but there is hope, and that's the hope, that's the message I want to bring to you. This is not the potential that we have. We have kind of slipped and lost touch. We need to wake up. So where did we go wrong? Instead of having a vision to give to the world, we are always complaining, so we have become victims. Instead of having discipline, and you can understand this very well, we indulge. Instead of having passion, we are just like everybody else, we reflect the social mirror. Instead of being run by our conscience, something else takes over, we are run by our ego. And instead of being a creative force, we are just like everybody else, we are programmed, we reflect the cultural software. Instead of finding your voice, you will lose your voice, and instead of inspiring others to find their voice, you will deliberately conspire to make sure nobody finds his voice. This is Stephen Covey's research. Instead of being a whole person, you become a fragmented person. What a pity, what a waste of a life. Lack of integrity, fragmented. So let's talk about something practical. Okay, Let us talk about stress, how it is related to emotions and how it is related to physiology, the body. Okay. So we all want to perform well, so look at the green side, high performance. We do not want to perform poorly, right. So we want to stay away from the negative side, and our body tells us, reveals what is happening inside us. So when we feel good, we have positive emotions, when we feel bad, we have so called negative emotions. And we have a autonomic nervous system, ANS it is called, which can be sympathetic or it can be parasympathetic. These are technical words. Sympathetic means you are excited, so it is a state of high energy, high arousal. Parasympathetic means like when you go to sleep, ideally you are not aroused, or you are feeling sleepy, as some of you seem to be now, low energy, low arousal, right. So these are states we go through, and it is proven that all of us have a sympathetic bias. That means even when we want to relax, we are not able to relax, we are kind of tuned on to getting excited. And it is wonderful if you can tap into the green areas. That means you feel exhilaration, you feel passion, you feel joy, you feel love, you feel care, you feel kindness, you feel appreciation, you feel harmony and beauty. Wonderful way to live. But unfortunately most of us rarely visit these states. What is more familiar to us is we are frustrated, we are angry, we feel hostile, there is fear, there is worry about the future, there is anxiety, there is guilt, we get overwhelmed, we get resentful, we get judgmental, right. So that is what happens when you need to do work in the world, and that is not a good state to be in. And this can be actually measured. There are chemicals, there are hormones in your bloodstream which cortisol is you can, but you do not need all this, because you know inside where you are. And let us say you do not need to do work all the time, there are times where you have to relax and you have to sleep, right. So when you need that parasympathetic functioning of the autonomic nervous system, you can't do it. So even when you want to switch off the machine, it can't get switched off. You feel hopelessness, you feel despair, you feel depression, you have nightmares, you feel burnout, you feel fatigue, you feel withdrawal, you feel bored, you feel apathy, you feel cut off. So that is a very negative state. What is desirable is you feel inner peace, you feel equanimity, you accept people for what they are, you can forgive everybody, you have serenity, you have reflection, you have contentment. Wouldn't it be wonderful to be on this side of the spectrum, to be able to do this? That is a challenge. So if you find yourself on the left side, can you even recognize this? Most of us do not even know that. There is no self awareness, number one. Number two, do you have the ability to do alchemy, switch sides? That is a challenge in life. So let me show you a small picture. You need energy to do anything, right, and it is actually a heart energy, so it is green in color, it is life, and you need inspiration. That is a real food that we all need. With inspiration you can do anything, and inspiration incidentally comes from knowing how to breathe well. The in breath is also called inspiration, and you need to express this inspiration, so you have this expression, but you lose energy the moment you express, and sometimes without doing anything itself you lose energy, right. That is because there are leaks inside your system, you have a lot of distractions, you are not able to concentrate, there are wounds in your heart, people you are not able to forgive, and it can deplete very fast. When your tank is empty, you go into a negativity, that is where you feel all the negative emotions, right, you are not cheerful. So there is a threshold, and the moment energy drops below the threshold, optimism changes to pessimism, and that happens to all of us, and that is the secret. So you should stop doing things when you do not have energy, but most important, you must learn to plug the leaks and know how to fill your tank. You need potential energy before you can have kinetic energy. Okay, so this is all beautifully written in a good book which you can refer to. It is called Energize Your Heart. It is based on a Sufi meditation practice, a beautiful practice which originated in India. There was a great saint called Hazrat Inayat Khan, and it is a way of energizing your heart. But most of all, you need trust. As far as breathing is concerned, if you will permit me, most of us do not know how to breathe. It is a simple thing, our breathing is too erratic, it is not rhythmic, it is not slow, it is too fast, it is not deep, it is too shallow. So if you measure it, we are on this side, we breathe around 20 to 25 breaths per minute, and you see that is why you are looking anxious like that guy there, the sympathetic emphasis. So it is a simple thing to learn to breathe, and this is traditional wisdom. And if you can slow down your breath, and ideally if you can learn to breathe fully at around 5 breaths per minute, you are balanced, you can handle the world, you can handle crisis, but do not go too slow because you might go to sleep. Okay. Okay, so I do not have time to tell you the story, but I want you to appreciate this. Life is meant to be enjoyed, so much beauty around you. You need a clear and present awareness to wake up to that beauty, and to do this you must be able to switch off from everything and get into a state of being and not just doing. And if you can be in that state, you get into stillness, and Eckhart Tolle says this very well: when you lose touch with stillness, you lose touch with your essence and you lose yourself in the world. So most of us have no experience of this beautiful state of deep inner peace, and everything is a form of consciousness. And Krishnamurti says this beautifully. He says, one may be surrounded by great beauty, by mountains and fields and rivers, but unless one is alive to it all, one might just as well be dead. I have shown you this picture earlier. So our emotions can be at the rock bottom. In Sanskrit you call it tamas. You can suffer from apathy, which means you are cut off from everybody else, full of grief or fear. Or you could get some energy. This is rajas, you have desire, which is great, you got energy. If you get what you want, you become proud, and that is what everybody wants, by the way. And if you do not get what you want, you get angry. But there are higher states, and those are states where you have the courage to break this pattern, you have the courage to perform alchemy, you have the courage to go from conventional to post-conventional, you have the courage to listen to your heart, you have the ability to accept people as they are, accept situations the way they are, and you are willing to trust the divinity in all. You are willing to trust nature, you are willing to trust life, you are willing to give unconditional love, you feel compassion. This is called sattva in our traditional wisdom. This is what we need, not there in our curriculum. We do not even know there is something like this, and you need a sense of deep awareness to know where you are and to feel that deep awareness, and when you really can soak into it, then you experience a permanent inner state of peace, which is a kind of anchor from which you can work. So initially we seem to oscillate between deep non-awareness and non-awareness. As you learn how to live better, you will oscillate from non-awareness to awareness, but you mature only when you really get into that non-awareness zone and you are between awareness and deep awareness. This is the path of fear, a horrible way to live. That is the way many of us live. This is the path of love, where you find your authentic self. What is a test? The test, and here you are in the box, you find yourself blaming people most of the time, complaining, treating people as objects, your heart is at war, you will be always self-justifying yourself, your views get distorted because you are confused, and you never take responsibility. Always the system is to blame. Here you are out of the box, and the test is, let us say there is some bombshell that takes place in your life. Okay, that is a stimulus. When you are in the box, you do not have a choice, you respond spontaneously and you make a mess of your response because you are not mature. It is when you are out of the box, you have a gap between the stimulus and response, and the more you are out of the box, the more you have that space from which you can decide on the wisest course of action which is best beneficial for all. I will conclude with these slides. How does this help us? It helps us in all our relationships. Let me give an example of a marital relationship, which you all will hopefully be getting into sooner or later. this is me and this is my wife, okay, and we are actually not just physical bodies, we are actually spectrums of possibility, which you can appreciate from the previous slide, and at any point we are where we are, and we would like to be living fulfilled life, so we would like to rise to the top. These are rainbow colors, they are spectrums, but often we get into fights with each other, and we get into the box, right. Now I have all this wisdom, I have gone through this course in self-awareness, I have practiced it and so on, so I know better, so I try to go to a higher stage, but it is not sustainable because one tone from her is enough to bring me down to earth, and this is what happens to I mean I am using a male female analogy, but it is true of you and your friend or your boss or two communities, it is the same thing. So what is the only sensible course of action to sort things out? You must operate at your highest level, and this is sustainable, and this is what makes life so beautiful. You operate at your highest level, you are no longer a threat to anybody, you only want good things to happen to everybody, and you really make a difference to the world. It's not, and so whose responsibility it is? So normally we say the other person should change, but you can't even expect that because you are not willing to change. So we can facilitate change in others when we change and we operate at a highest level. So at the lower end of despair you have frustration and hopelessness, at the middle end you have pleasure and pride. This is where all of us operate. We have no clue about what is happening on the right side. That is where you have deep inner peace, you have wholeness. It is also related to how you are connected with others. Here you are apathetic, you do not care. Here you are successful but you are self-centered. It is here you are co-creative, you are part of the successful divine operation in the world, and you have universal caring. This is the path of fear, this is the path of love, this is the egoic path, and the right path is the trans-egoic path. You really find who you are. So this is my last slide. May you all flower, discover your life purpose, do what you were born to do, be who you really are. Thank you. All the best.